The twin suns of Velkoranin burned low in the pale orange sky, turning the dusty plains into a glowing sea of gold. The wind carried the faint hum of abandoned machines, half buried in sand and silence. Among the wreckage, a single human worked with quiet determination, Evan Cole. A cargo engineer from Earth, wiped sweat from his brow as he examined the cracked power cells of his small transport ship, the Trailfinder. His hands were blackened with grease, his clothes covered in dust, but his mind was sharp and hopeful. The ship had crashed 2 days ago after a meteor storm hit its navigation array. Since then, he had been stranded in this lonely desert, surrounded by endless ruins of old wars. Still, Evan refused to give up. "Come on, sweetheart," he muttered to the ship, patting its side. "Just need you to wake up one more time." He connected a cable to the last working battery pack and flipped a switch. Sparks jumped, smoke hissed, and then silence returned. He sighed. Nothing. The battery was dead. Evan leaned back on the sand, staring at the sky filled with purple clouds and strange stars. He missed Earth's the smell of rain, the sound of traffic, and the way people always smiled, even when life was hard. Out here, in the endless galaxies, humans were the newcomers. Most alien races saw them as unpredictable, messy, and too emotional for space life. Maybe they were right, but Evan liked to think humans had something the others didn't, the will to keep going, when logic said stop. As the night came, lit a small campfire, using bits of wiring and fuel gel. He was eating a protein bar when he heard something distant thunder, but sharper, rhythmic. He stood, listening. It was the sound of engines. A moment later, a streak of blue light crossed the sky, followed by an explosion in the hills to the east. Smoke rose quickly, glowing green under the moons. Without thinking, Evan grabbed his toolkit and ran toward it. His heart raced. Maybe it was another ship. Maybe it had supplies or survivors. After a long climb through broken stone and sand, he reached the crash site. A medium-sized gunship lay half-buried, flames licking its metal sides. Strange symbols glowed faintly on its hull, clearly alien. He could hear faint groaning from inside. Double quotes. "Hello?" Evan shouted. "Is anyone there?" A deep, rasping voice answered from behind the smoke. "Stay back, human." Evan froze. The figure stepped forward, a tall creature, nearly 7 feet high, with dark green skin marked by silver scars. Its armor was torn, and one arm hung limp at its side. Its eyes shone a golden hue that reflected the firelight. The alien pointed a small plasma pistol toward Evan. Evan raised his hands. "Whoa, easy there. I'm not here to fight. I saw your ship crash." The alien blinked, wincing in pain. "Leave me. I do not need help." "Yeah, sure," Evan said, slowly moving closer. "And I'm a Martian prince. You're bleeding, and your reactor's about to blow." The alien looked confused. "A what?" "Never mind." Evan stepped around the flames, crouching beside the ship's broken side panel. The readings were bad. The reactor core was overheating. If it blew, the explosion would wipe out half the valley. He didn't have time to argue. "Look, you can shoot me later. Right now, I'm the only one who can stop your ship from becoming a crater." The alien hesitated, then lowered the pistol. "Fine, but touch anything else, and you die." "Fair deal," Evan said, already unscrewing a plate with a wrench. The minutes passed in tense silence. Evan worked quickly, rerouting cooling lines and sealing cracks with melted alloy. The alien watched him with disbelief. No one, especially not a human, should have known the layout of her ship that well. Finally, the core's hum softened. The danger light turned blue. Evan sat back, wiping his forehead. "There, you're safe." The alien studied him closely. "You saved me." Evan smiled tiredly. "You're welcome. What's your name?" The alien hesitated again, then said Zira Thalkor, captain of the mercenary vessel Rendwing. "Nice to meet you, Captain." "I'm Evan. Mechanic, accidental hero, part-time idiot." Zira tilted her head. "Your species is strange. You risked your life for someone you just met." "Yeah, we do that," Evan said, shrugging. "It's a human thing. She didn't understand, but she nodded. Her legs shook slightly and she stumbled. Evan caught her before she fell. Her armor was heavy and hot from the crash. "Easy," he said. "You're injured." "Sit down before you fall down," Zyra grumbled, but obeyed. "I need to remove my armor to repair it." Evan turned away respectfully. "Go ahead. I won't peek." There was a pause. Then Zyra's voice grew flustered, almost defensive. "Don't peek, human. You are unpredictable." Evan laughed nervously. "Hey, you're safe. I'm just checking the engine, promise." Behind him, he could hear the soft sound of metal plates unclasping. He focused on the ship's systems, though his ears burned from embarrassment. He had never thought an alien could sound embarrassed, too. When Zyra spoke again, her tone had softened. "You are not like the others. Others. Humans I met before. They talk too much about war and trade. You talk to broken machines." Evan smiled faintly. "Machines don't lie. They just need patience." The night wind carried a faint chill as the fires died down. They built a small shelter from the wreckage. Zyra's wounds were shallow but painful. Evan used his medkit to patch them, earning a surprised look from her every time the human gel worked. Faster than she expected. She studied him in the flickering light. "Why are you here, human?" "Ship crash," he said. "Same as you. I was heading to the Orion Belt to deliver cargo. Got caught in a meteor storm. Fate has a strange sense of humor," Zyra murmured. "Yeah, well, it likes picking on me," Evan said. "You got any food that doesn't taste like old socks?" Zyra reached into her bag and handed him a ration pack. "Eat. It's made from Carthian root protein." Evan sniffed it, made a face, then smiled. "Smells terrible. Must be healthy." He took a bite and coughed. "Oh yeah, that's unique." Zyra looked amused for the first time. Her sharp features softened into something almost like a smile. "Humans complain even when they are alive. It is impressive." Evan grinned. "And aliens make jokes." Who knew? As the night deepened, they shared stories. Zyra spoke about her mercenary life. How she fought in border wars and guarded trade routes across the rim. Evan told her about Earth, about blue oceans and forests that moved like waves in the wind. Zyra listened in silence, her golden eyes reflecting the campfire. To her, Earth sounded like a mytha place, too gentle to be real. Later, as they both sat by the quiet fire, Zyra glanced at the stars. "Why did you really save me, Evan Cole?" He looked up, thoughtful. "Because I could. Nobody deserves to die alone out here. Doesn't matter what planet you're from." For a long time, Zyra didn't answer. She just watched him, her expression unreadable. Then, softly, she said, "You are either brave or foolish." "Probably both," Evan said with a smile. They slept in shifts, keeping the fire alive. At dawn, the desert turned red and alive again. Evan woke early and began working on repairing her ship fully. The engines were salvageable, but the navigation system was fried. He scavenged parts from his own crashed ship without hesitation. Zyra noticed and frowned. "You are giving your ship's systems to repair mine?" "Up," he said cheerfully. "Yours can actually fly. Mine's done." She folded her arms. "You would be stranded." "I was already stranded," Evan said. "At least this way, one of us gets home." Zyra didn't know what to say. Among her kind, such sacrifice was rare. Mercenaries valued survival above all. Yet this human gave freely, like it was nothing. By midday, the ship hummed faintly again. Evan climbed out from under the wing, covered in sweat and dust, but smiling. "Engines are responding. You'll be space-ready soon." Zyra stared at him. "Why do you help so much?" He shrugged. "Because someone helped me once. Guess I'm just paying it forward." A long silence hung between them. Then Zyra nodded slowly. "You are different, Evan Cole. I will remember that." That night, as the final energy cells charged, they sat together watching the stars rise. Evan pointed at a small blue one in the distance. "That's Earth," he said. "Doesn't look like much from here, huh?" Zyra followed his gaze. "Small things can surprise you," she said quietly. He smiled. "You almost sound human," She rolled her eyes. Insult me again, and I will throw you off this hill. Evan laughed, and Zyra's lips curved just slightly, a rare alien version of a smile. But deep inside, something new stirred within her, a sense of trust she hadn't felt in years, in the quiet between the twin moons. The human and the alien sat side by side, two survivors from different worlds, joined by chance and stubborn kindness. When the wind shifted, carrying the faint echo of vengeance in the distance, Zyra's sharp eyes narrowed. Trouble was coming. Tomorrow, the real test of this strange friendship would begin. Dawn rose over Velkaranin with a soft red light that looked like a sleeping fire. The wind was quiet for a moment, as if the desert itself was holding its breath. Evan Cole woke first. He sat up, rubbed his eyes, and listened. The sky felt different today. It carried a far, thin sound like someone dragging metal across sand in the distance. He turned to the alien mercenary beside him. Zyra Thalkor was already awake. Her golden eyes were clear and focused, her posture straight. She had heard the sound too. Without a word, she stood, strapped on her chest plate, and checked her equipment. Evan noticed she moved with less pain now. His medgel and careful bandaging had helped. Engines, she said quietly, pointing to the eastern ridge. 3 signatures. Small? Fast? Friends of yours? Evan asked. Zyra's mouth drew into a line. Not friends. Evan took a slow breath. He looked at the Rendwinger ship parked in the hollow of the rocks. Its hull still held the scars of last night's crash. The engines were alive again because of his long hours, but the navigation system worked only in a simple mode. They could fly. They could not run far. He felt a warm pride and a cooler worry at the same time. Okay, he said, trying to sound calm. We have a plan, right? Zyra nodded once. We will not fight if we don't have to. She watched the horizon. But if they force it, we handle it. Evan smiled, nervous but stubborn. Then let's handle it. They moved quickly. Evan climbed into the ship to double-check the coolant lines and power flow. Symptoms were stable. The right engine had a small drift that he corrected by adjusting the mixture. He talked quietly to the machine as he worked. You're doing great, he said to the ship, as if it could hear him. Just hold together. Just today? Outside, Zyra studied the nearby land with a soldier's eyes. The rocks formed a broken bowl around the ship, with narrow paths leading down. Good for cover. Bad for escape? She slid a small beacon under a pile of stones and keyed it to Evan's tool display. If they needed a decoy, it would pulse with their ship's energy signature for a few minutes. By the time the first dust lines appeared on the ridge, Evan had sealed the last panel. He climbed down the ladder and joined Zyra at the shelter's edge. 3 craft drifted above them like sharks gliding through shallow water. Their hulls were black and narrow, with fins that cut the air. Each carried 2 riders in matte helmets. The craft circled once, then slowly descended, engines roaring softly in a proud way that said, "We have time. We are not afraid." One of the riders lifted a hand, and his voice echoed through a speaker. "Captain Zyra Thalkor, you owe a debt. Our employer asks for your return," Zyra answered without raising her voice. "Your employer can file a request through proper channels," the rider laughed. It was not a friendly sound. The request is simple. You, alive. The human, irrelevant. Evan raised his hand in a small wave. Hey there. Human here. Very relevant. Zyra did not take her eyes off the riders. Her voice was calm. They will try to separate us, she said softly to Evan. Stay close to the ship. When I move, you move. What's the chance they let us go if I say please? Evan whispered. Zyra did not smile, but her eyes warmed a little. Small. The riders spread out, 2 drifting left, 1 holding center. The center rider spoke again. Come out, Captain. We will not harm you if you comply. Zyra stepped forward into the open, hands away from her weapons. Evan's heart jumped, but she tipped her head slightly, an unspoken message. Trust me. He stayed near the ship's ramp and turned on the console inside, just to give himself something to do. The display lit his face with a blue glow. The center rider switched off his engine and dropped lightly to the sand. He walked toward Zyra, helmet reflecting the morning sky. "You are hard to catch," he said. "You made enemies on the rim." Zyra did not answer. The rider shrugged. "Then keep it simple. Put down your weapon. We take you. We leave the human. He can fix his little ship on his own." Zyra looked at the Renwing. Inside the cockpit, Evan could be seen through the open hatch, hands resting on the controls, not moving. He did not look afraid. He looked ready. Zyra spoke in a clear voice. "No," the rider tilted his head. "No." "I hired him," Zyra said. Evan blinked. "Since when?" He thought. Zyra continued. "He is my engineer. He goes where I go." A second rider started to laugh. The sound echoed off the rocks. "You hired a human in a desert? Captain, you have changed." "I learned something new," Zyra said. "Humans solve problems no one else touches." Center rider's voice cooled. "Then you both come. But you come quietly." Zyra's eyes lowered a fraction. "You brought 3 craft for me. That means there are more of you somewhere." "5 more," the rider said, then smiled at his own mistake. "But they will not arrive in time to help you." Zyra nodded as if she had learned what she needed. Her body was still, like a drawn bow. "Evan," she said, without turning around, "remember the switch by the beacon?" Evan's hand closed on the tiny control inside his pocket. His voice was even. "Ready?" The rider took a step closer. "Drop your." Zyra moved. She was not a blur, Evan's eyes could follow her. But she was fast in a way that seemed like changing thought into motion. Her arms swept up, and a bright, hard light flashed, then died. She had not fired. She had thrown a small disc that snapped the rider's chest and sprayed a harmless shower of white sparks. The rider flinched and stumbled. A signal jammer. "Now," Zyra said. Evan pressed the control from behind a rock pile. The hidden beacon woke and pulsed with a strong echo of the Rendwing's signature. It looked, to any scanner, like a ship powering up. The 2 riders left and right jerked their craft toward the decoy, engines whining. Dust jumped. They started to fire at rocks. Zyra stepped to the side and tapped her wrist. A soft shield shimmered around her, a low defensive field made of light and air. The center rider reached for his belt, but in that moment, the Rendwing itself hummed and lifted only a little, just enough to shift sand and throw a wall of dust into the air. Evan was at the console, feeding power through carefully timed bursts. The dust rose like a curtain. For a second, everyone lost line of sight. Zyra used that second. She crossed the space to the closest craft, slapped her palm to a small hex panel, and cut its engine with a hard override. The craft dropped onto the sand with a dull thud, alive, but stunned. Like a fish lifted from water and set down without warning, the second rider realized too late and tried to swing back. The third shouted into a dead channel because the jammer still danced on the chest of the center rider and spread, crossed the shared frequency like a blanket. It was not violent. It was simply quiet, deep, and strong. Evan's hands flew across the control board. He opened the cooling valves a little wider, then closed them again when the temperature shifted. He whispered as he worked. Hold, you beautiful machine. We just need a minute." Zyra stepped in front of the Renwing's ramp. She did not fire. She stood like a stone gate that would not open for strangers. 2 of the 3 riders were grounded now. The third hovered, unsure. He kept his distance because even he could feel the human ship breathing like a living thing, ready to move. The center rider ripped the jammer off his chest and crushed it in one hand. He glared at Zyra. "Enough tricks." Zyra's voice was steady. "Leave. Tell your employer that the contract is closed." The rider raised one gloved finger. "No." He pointed at Evan with it. "He is the trick. Without him, your ship is nothing." "You have grown soft," Yvonne almost laughed. Soft, he thought, is what people say when they do not understand care. He watched Zyra's stance shift, each movement tiny, measured, like a singer drawing breath before a high note. She did not look soft at all. She looked calm. Something changed then on the ridge above them. A new sound joined the morning airflow, steady, almost gentle. It did not roar, it purred. Evan knew the sound in a way that made his chest lift. He smiled without trying to. "Zyra," he said softly into the calm, "we have company." 4 figures stood against the light on the ridge. They were not riders. They held no weapons up high. Their clothes were dust-stained and patched. Salvagers, desert people. Evan recognized them by the way they moved, slow, respectful, careful with fuel and words. He had traded with people like this across different worlds. They waited a long moment, then raised their hands in a simple greeting that meant, "We are not a threat if you are not." The third rider turned toward them, like a cat that sees a second shadow and cannot decide which to chase. In his indecision, he drifted lower. Zyra spoke first, her voice carrying clearly. "Stay back," she told the salvagers. "This is not your fight," one of the salvagers called out, voice old and kind. "We heard a crash yesterday. We brought water and shade sheets. If you don't need them, we will go." The center rider snapped, "Leave. Now." The old salvager looked at him with a long, slow gaze that made time feel thick. "We do not take orders from strangers," he said. "We trade. Or we walk." He set the water down and stepped back with calm dignity. Zyra measured the moment and made a choice. She reached to her belt and slipped a small token Freya, square of metal etched with a symbol like a star inside a hand. She tossed it to the old salvager. He caught it, surprised. "Marker of safe passage," she said. "If anyone troubles you and shows this symbol, speak my name. Zyra Thalcor." The salvager bowed his head once. In that instant, the balance shifted. Something quiet but strong moved between the humans and the aliens.